Artificial intelligence is transforming industries across the board, including startup businesses. As founders race to embed the technology into both their products and daily operations, they are grappling with rising costs, competition, and safety risks in an increasingly fast-moving landscape. CNA's Sarah Al-Khaldi spoke to OpenAI's head of startups, Marc Manara, about how young companies are navigating these new challenges.
How they run the business is different. So are they finding the ways to have a small team be able to accomplish a lot more using AI tools and AI products inside their work? So things like scaling customer support or scaling how they go to market using AI natively in the business. So we see that as kind of a pattern that the best startups are bringing not only AI into their core product, but actually into how they run the company.
Yeah, and many startups, though, are accused of just putting a new interface on already available models, like maybe ChatGPT. And if startups access the same models, what would be their competitive edge?
Yeah, so I think the competitive edge comes down to a few things. One is just how you're using the models. And a lot of what our team focuses on when we work with startups is helping them get the most value out of the models. These are new technologies. They behave differently than prior generations of technology. And actually the know-how and the hands-on support that we can provide helps a startup get the most out of it, get the best accuracy, optimize for latency of how they're using the models, a lot of kind of core technical challenges that they're trying to solve. Can they solve it the best using the model? So that's one. The other is just everything else that it takes to make a great business. And that is things outside of the technology. So they have a good channel strategy for their go-to-market? Do they have a great product? Are they building a user experience that is compelling on top of the models? And can they build the business from the funding and the resources that they need? So all of those things matter a ton, even if you have AI in the product, just like they have in prior waves.
Yeah, and with traditional software companies, margins expand as you bring in more users. But with an AI-powered software, that comes with higher costs too, because they have to pay every time a user kind of taps into AI, per token. So how can startups manage rising costs with that?
Yeah, the reality is costs keep coming down for the same level of intelligence. And that is a trend we anticipate will continue far into the future. And so a lot of startups today, even as maybe their margins are lower than where they want to be long term, that bet is a pretty good bet to be making, that those costs of the underlying tokens and the usage of these AI models will continue to drop for the same level of intelligence. Now, there will be some startups that need the frontier intelligence for certain tasks in their products, and they should continue to use that. What our team tries to advise startups is, okay, where are the places in the product where you can optimize costs, either by using maybe a smaller model or a different model for some parts of the task?
The thing with the large language models, they can still give wrong answers at the moment, and that can hurt, say, a startup's brand, its credibility. So how can that be managed?
Yeah, this is one of the hardest parts of building with AI, is trying to solve for this problem. There are many techniques that you can use and that startups use to try to reduce the risks of hallucinations and getting the wrong answer, so to speak. So things like putting guardrails in place and architecting around the idea that this is a stochastic system that has variability in how it operates.
And safety is another issue that startups have to address as well. How much of that responsibility falls on the startups that are creating these applications, and how much of that is on the model providers such as OpenAI?
Yeah, we take safety very, very seriously. So when we release and build models, we build a lot of safety guardrails into actually how the models operate themselves. And that's a core part of the shared responsibility that we own. So that is how we build. Startups do own a piece of this as well. There are ways to kind of, let's say you're taking user-generated content as part of, how a startup operates, like how you handle and treat and moderate that content. You can use models to do it, but part of that lives with the startup as well to own.
And as you work with these startups, what are some of the new roles that are emerging that you think young people should look into when they, try to figure out how they can maximize AI and make sure they're employed for the next couple of decades?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is we're seeing the best early career talent really understand and use these tools, AI technology. So if you're just getting started in your career, immersing yourself in how ChatGPT and other AI tools work and really being fluent in them is going to be kind of the table stakes for what jobs require in the future. I think we're also seeing in how products get developed, things are changing a little bit. And, the idea of a product manager and an engineer and a designer being separate roles, that has started to shift. And in some companies, we're actually seeing those roles blend a little bit.